My daddy uses Anchor to publish his podcast, and he loves it. Not only can he record, edit, and distribute on this platform, but he can make money at the same time, all for free. If you too would like to get started on your own podcast, go to the website anchor.fm or download the free Anchor app. Don't forget to subscribe. Thanks for listening. Have a great day. Let's go!
Welcome to another episode of the Third Eye Podcast, the podcast that is dedicated to open dialogue regarding the difficult topics that we all face in life. I am your host, Marcus Callahan, and thank you very much for joining me this evening. Good evening and welcome to another episode of the Third Eye Podcast. I hope you all are being safe and taking the necessary precautions for this virus that is still at large. COVID-19 has crippled not only America, but pretty much the entire world. Countless people all over the world are being affected by this outbreak. One of the hardest things to grasp is that this virus hasn't even hit its peak yet. This is absolutely scary to think about. One thing that I have noticed is that there's a lot of misinformation floating around regarding this virus and the steps that are being taken to combat it. So I wanted to use this episode as a way to clear the air regarding COVID-19 and also to bring some joy to your day by focusing on the positive outcomes of this pandemic. So there have been a lot of accusations and theories about where this virus came from, but I want to stick to the facts and what we know. A pneumonia of unknown cause detected in Wuhan, China, was first reported to the World Health Organization, country office in China on December 31st, 2019. It was declared a public health emergency of international concern on January 30th, 2020, and on February 11th, 2020, this particular strand of coronavirus was named COVID-19 by the World Health Organization. At the time of this recording, the number of confirmed cases globally is 2,060,927. There have been 134,354 deaths and 511,356 recoveries. I'm sure that by the time you hear this, those numbers will all increase. I hope they decrease, but at this point, it doesn't seem very likely. Countries all over the world are dealing with this virus, and each country has had a similar response: lockdown. Nearly a third of the Earth's population is under some form of lockdown or restriction. 28 countries to be exact. The virus started in China, so it makes sense that they have had the largest quarantine in human history. Since the end of January, 16 cities in China have been on lockdown. And here in the United States, most states have issued stay-at-home orders, but we aren't under a full lockdown just yet. I do fear that it will become mandatory soon due to all of the people who refuse to take this virus seriously. People are still frolicking around at beaches and continuing to live their lives as if nothing is happening. I understand the feeling of wanting to ignore all of this, but the reality is this won't get better until we take it seriously and continue to quarantine ourselves. All right, I don't want to take up too much more of your time, but I have to address the elephant in the room. Our country, America the not so great, has had a horrible response to this pandemic, and it has been extremely underwhelming. For months, our president denied that this was a pandemic, only to flip-flop and say he knew all along. Businesses are being forced to close, which eliminates jobs for millions of people. Meanwhile, the banks are still expecting their mortgage payments every month. For the majority of Americans, their health benefits are tied to their employer. So if they're not working, they're not receiving their benefits. There has been a huge domino effect with this pandemic, and it will only get worse if our government doesn't take the necessary actions to fight this and help the American people. Sure, a stimulus package was just issued to some Americans, but the damage has already been done. A one-time payment of $1,200 does nothing for the citizen who's already a month or two behind on rent or mortgage. It doesn't help those who are in massive debt now due to medical bills that are no longer covered. And it is a huge slap in the face to the millions of people who aren't going to receive this payment because they're in college or their parents claimed them as a dependent last year. What about those who used to make more than the threshold for the stimulus package but are now unemployed? Speaking of unemployment, it's absolutely laughable that people who are on unemployment get an extra $600 per week. Meanwhile, those still being forced to work and put their lives at risk aren't even getting some form of hazard pay. To be clear, I am happy that those who are now unemployed because of this pandemic are being taken care of. They absolutely should be. But those who are still out there risking their lives should also be compensated for it. All right, before I go, I want to end on a positive note. Although this pandemic has halted our everyday work lives and has limited the activities we can do when we do leave the house, it has given us a gift as well, the gift of time. It has forced us to slow down, and while some may view it as a punishment, I choose to view it as a blessing. My wife and children are home, and I get to spend time with them. I've been able to help my kids with their schoolwork, take them out front so they can play and burn some energy. We've had time to watch movies together and actually eat as a family. I've had time to spend with my wife to actually talk about things that don't involve work or adulting. It has been tough trying to survive, but the time that I've been granted with my family has been a blessing in disguise. So I encourage all of you to take this time we now have to better your home life or pick up a new hobby. Make the most out of this experience and pray that when this is all over, we strive to do better as a nation when it comes to making time for the things that are most important. Okay, thank you again for listening to another episode of the Third Eye Podcast. COVID-19 is still at large, and I hope you all are taking the necessary precautions for yourself and your family. I will be back next week to discuss security versus freedom, and I will have my second guest on. So I am very excited about that. I love you all. Stay safe. And remember to love each other and be kind to one another. Thank you and have a great night.